So right now we know we have the 50 states that are inundated with um, groups that are protesting because they're about Trump and they're upset about Elon Musk looking at the books. Let's talk about this. So no one likes an audit. I get it. I actually get it. However, I don't think that's what's happening here, at least not with those who are employed, who handles the books or somehow has influence over what happens in the books. I don't think that's what their outcry is. I think, well, let's just call them dirty hands. I think that there are some dirty hands that don't want to be exposed, that want to keep the cash flowing, just keep it ongoing at the expense of you. After all, you cannot get back your time that you take away from your children to go to work. You cannot get back the stress that often accommodates work. You cannot get back any of that time. But yet they are able to capitalize off of it and then lie to us and tell us that funds are being sent here and there for the betterment of the American people to protect democracy. I mean, aren't you tired of that phrase? And we've been hearing it. It's almost as though they've been saying it over and over so that it can get inside of our noodle, so that it can get in our mind, our subconscious. So when we think, or if anyone there thinks to dare fight against them, we can say, but we want to protect the democracy. Never mind that history has not shown that they've done anything like that. And what is it? What is it with our publics, our new and improved public servants who are now becoming, well, who are now coming out of all this as multi-millionaires? I'm talking about shovels and shovels and shovels of cash. I'm talking about an obscene amount of cash, like Richard Gere said back in Pretty Woman's movie. But some of them are like that. Meanwhile, you can barely put two pennies together. You can barely buy a new pair of shoes for your children. You can barely put food on the table, and you know what I'm talking about because many of the American people got the same problem. It's called the people with the dirty hands. But we don't like to think that we would be taken advantage of in such a way, but we are. I mean, case in point, now AOC hasn't been in Congress for that long compared to like a Pelosi, right? She hasn't been in Congress that long. She came in. Now, she wasn't a wealthy individual, not as far as I knew, but she is now. She come in with the $100,000+ salary. That's what she has, at least right now. But she's a millionaire. How do you suppose she managed that? Did they have information that you did not have? Did they do things that you or I would not do? But with our money, I would beg to say that perhaps some people's hands were really dirty and it needed to get cleaned. It's disturbing. And then when you look at some of the names of the programs that's right now under scrutiny at the USAID, that's it, right? USAID, because they will give you names that seem, I think there's, what I've learned so far is either they would give you names that look completely harmless, like the name of the organization itself. But then when you look at the programs, like I can't remember off the top of my head, I didn't write any of them down. But I did read some of them and they were just, they were amusing, not even alarming. Alarming, yes, but amusing. Like one of them dealt with, giving rats cocaine and testing something about either their depression or something like that. I know I didn't just do a good job, but there's so many of them. You do the work. You look in what they're finding underneath the skirts, and they haven't even went that deep yet. I mean, I could only imagine they're finding out where the cemetery is and maybe where the supposed headstones are, but I could only imagine what else they find. And meanwhile, sad but on cue, cue the protesters. Here they come. Here they come. We're angry. We're upset. About what? They're checking the books on which you pay for. You paid their salary, but they forgot all it. Man, forget that. They said forget all that. We got a cash cow. They have been, the only thing I could think of is they have been like parasites. Parasites. And we have been the host. We've been hosting parasites. That's a disturbing image when you think about it. But I can't think of anything better, because that's what they've been doing. They've been funding things that would cause a lot of destruction. Things that I know that if you had your vote, you wouldn't go for it. But yet now we're finding and we're learning what they're uncovering. And we have some of the people. Now, I did have a clip, a news clip. I just kind of randomly took it off of my, filmed it with my camera, with my phone onto my TV, right? But I was so distraught. First of all, I couldn't understand what the guy was doing. It was in Atlanta. They're doing riots out in Atlanta. And so I couldn't understand completely what the guy was saying. And he's talking big, we're going to do it in a minute, we're going to, I guess, take you out of jail, right? Or something, right? Similar to what they did back in, didn't we find out how that happened? Wasn't that a Soros finance backed kind of thing that happened with those who were rioting, I think, regarding Antifa, BLM, somewhere around there. Wasn't too long ago. But so so I took the footage, and I still might post it, but I was so distracted. And I wasn't distracted because of the people like, yeah, they're out there doing what they're doing. I wasn't even distracted by the person who was saying whatever he was saying, because it doesn't make sense to me, but okay. All right. But what I was distracted by was who was behind him. And who was behind him was a woman who was dressed in a way that typically would suggest they don't like Americans. And she was right there in the frame. So I don't know. I'm thinking, because unfortunately we tend to be like that. When one person does something, sometimes people will follow along and not know the entirety of it all. They're talking about, like, the left, as far as the politicians, they're talking about doing some really ugly things that, had it been us, oh man, we wouldn't see the light of day. You have to resist with the arm salute. I mean, did anybody bother to see if that was from the past? Take up a stop. We have to stop what's happening and protect democracy, which is their favorite word. I think those are words that are used to kind of trigger certain people's minds. I really do, because it doesn't make any sense, because they have not protected our democracy. They have been parasites. They've been parasites. They've been exploiting us. They are parasites. And I can almost understand why the employees are marching out there. You don't want to give up the source of your livelihood. But what I don't understand is how other Americans who are being exploited, whose money is being taxed, who's barely making it, who's out there. I don't understand it. And then one lady, I forgot which one it was, but she was saying, we're at war. Go out there and fight. Can we sign an executive order, Mr. President? I mean, I know you want to be gentlemanly with this, but they're inciting some very dangerous ideas. And the last thing we need is for our country to be taken under siege by a bunch of people who could only feel what they feel, who's not really stopping to really think about, this is good for you too.